Good morning, friends. I'm glad you joined us this morning. Thanks for tuning in to Journey Home Meditation for the morning sit. I am Michael, and I'm going to be sitting here today going over some different thoughts. We'll do a little bit of breath work and a little bit of meditating together. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for your patience on the sometimes erratic schedule of our morning sit. I was absent yesterday, and this is something that may be happening regularly. We'll see. But I'm going to always do my best to be here. But in those times that you are really wanting a morning practice to share with others, and you don't find this live and fresh and new on that day, you can always check out our Spotify, our Audible, our Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Looking for Journey Home Meditation, you should be able to find a little over 180, almost 200 recorded broadcasts of this morning practice there. And, I kind of suggest treating it like bibliomancy, the art of picking up a book and opening it to a page and seeing what's on that page might be relevant to you in that moment. It's something that I practice pretty regularly with poetry and with different sutra books. And it's fun. And it's amazing sometimes how you can find relevance in what seems to be coincidence, right? And we can get really wrapped up in different belief systems. And wherever you are on that spectrum is it's awesome. It's okay. I have friends that try their hardest to believe in nothing, and they try so hard, in fact, that their belief in nothing is their strongest belief they have. They insist in nothingness. They are, as Alan Watts said to Ram Dass, you are attached to emptiness. And then I have friends who, they so quickly will be willing to believe something that sounds new and fresh and exciting, these new ideas. I'm thinking of Terrence Howard right now, making the rounds, of course, on all of the internet and the social media. And Terrence Howard is known for being an actor, and now he's putting himself out there as a revolutionary quantum physicist of some sort. And there's so many people who are going one way or the other on this, and it's from where I'm sitting, it's okay. I don't feel an overwhelming urge to either believe or disbelieve in a lot of things. I'm okay with considering the possibilities. And I'm also okay with saying, yeah, that's not for me. I haven't always been that way. I was once a zealot, and I probably still have a little bit of zealotry in me. Do non-zealots broadcast a seemingly insignificant morning practice to the world, trying to share these practices with others to create community around a way of moving forward in our lives? I don't know that they do. So I must have some zealotry in me still today. And I'm okay with that. But this is not what I was going to talk about this morning, so I'm going to move on. One of the components of my experience right now is that I can't really plan ahead too far. I don't know from day to day how my body is going to participate in what my mind wants to do for the day. Uh, and because of that, I'm going through a period of shift. I have to shift. I have to pivot my belief in who I am and how I relate to my social group, how I relate to my coworkers, how I relate to my family. It inherently is shifting in that when I base my relationships off of the things I can do, when those things change, the relationships will change. So my shift right now, my pivot is not so much in how I perform and the things that I do, it's how I relate to the things that I do, how I identify myself based off of what I can provide rather than who I am. And that's been an amazing opening for me to recognize just how much of my identity has been wrapped up in what I can do for you, what I can do for others, what I can do in a community. My identity has been neatly enveloped in within those parameters for a very long time. And I was unaware of that mostly. I was mostly unaware of that until I could no longer do those things, until I could no longer, stand at a grill in a 125-degree, 135-degree food truck making food for 12 hours a day. Uh, when I could no longer do that, it started challenging the very core concepts of who I saw myself to be. And this was definitely not uh, a part of the privileged ability to recognize who I think I am. This was so far so deep that I didn't even recognize that as part of my identity. That's how ubiquitous it was, how attached that identity was to who I really think I am, that I didn't even know that that's who I thought I was. I just thought that's who I was. I don't know if that's making sense or not, but if we sit with it for a minute, I think it'll start to become more clear that sometimes we have parts of our identity that we can recognize pretty easily. This is a level of ego that I think I am this thing. I think I am a good musician. Okay, I can recognize, well, that might be a bit of, you know, pomposity to think that that's who I am just because I can make music. The idea that that's my identity, yeah, that's an easy one to let go. Or the idea that I'm good at cooking food or whatever those really easy to identify ego moments are. It's easy to identify ego when it's talking about ourselves in the positive, and we have a reaction to that. And this is suspect to me. It's suspicious to me that um, anytime we start to express love for ourselves and what we do, it gets written off as egomaniacal. But anytime we are expressing our distrust of ourselves or our dislike of the things that we exhibit or show the world, then we're kind of treated with kid gloves or as if somehow that's not ego, that's somehow, we call it a low self-image and we want to fix that with each other. When someone has a low self-image, we're like, no, 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 don't say that about yourself. But then when somebody has a what I would call a healthy self-image, I am I am a good cook. I am a good musician. I'm good at this. I've practiced hard. I've worked for a long time, and I have a level of being proficient at this, and I enjoy it. Then if you say, "Yeah, I'm good at that," people, "Oh, well, a little full of ourselves, aren't we? You need to check that ego." It's like everything is not perfect enough. You either like yourself too much or you don't like yourself enough. And that sort of confusing split in our social mind can lead us into some pretty confused and when I say dark right now, I don't mean bad or evil, but like some unknown places, some places where we just can't see through, some dark places where we don't know how to identify. We don't know how to self-identify. We don't know how to identify uh, our our place in relationships. And I think when it comes to this, we start to latch on to things that connect to a value system, right? So I value being of service. I find that to be valuable. And so I can start to slowly attach my identity to being of service. And I can do this so stealthily and in so many ways in my life that I forget that I'm still attaching it to an identity. And forget that I'm still attached to that. And I'll give you some good examples of this practice that things that seem like non negotiables. Here's one. I am a father. I am a brother. I am a husband. I am a son. See, those things seem to be non negotiable, especially when you get into the parenting aspect. You know, you can you can detach from everything in the world except for the truth that I am a father. Well, when does that begin and end, and how does that work and look on a long scale? And in what ways does attachment to these identities serve us? And in what ways do they disallow us from seeing a truth about ourselves? In what ways do they allow us to rationalize behaviors or rationalize belief systems? For example, in what ways does my identification as a father get in the way of me being able to have a relationship with people I identify as my children on equal levels? And in what way does it entitle me to certain behaviors? And in what way does it restrict me from other behaviors? You know, there's a lot of these schools of thought and trainings that we receive in subtle ways in our society about your identity and how you should behave within that identity. And especially as a parent, people will say things to you like, well, you need to be the parent to that child, not that child's friend. I don't I don't know what that means. I can play glib and act like I'm ignorant to that idea, but I understand what's being said there, and I think it's wrong. I think that you can be all sorts of things to people at different times. But as so long as we get firmly stuck in an identity of who we think we also forget that place of who we are not. And when we have an identity based on what we do, we forget about the ways we identify and the things that we don't do. It's very subtle. It's a very subtle thing. But let's go back to that identity of being of service, because this is something we talk about a lot at Journey Home. It's something that I do find to be a value. And when I speak of a value, I speak of a thing that is at the core of the motivation for the way we move through the world. It's like a pillar and a foundation, right? This is the strength, the thing that roots us at our core. This isn't the thing we strive for, right? Because when we have a value that we strive for, we will never find enough of it and we'll do whatever it takes to get to it. And that includes betraying the very value itself. But when we and also what this leads to is we feel ourselves having a lack of value when we are not feeling like we're achieving those things. Then we devalue ourselves. A good example is at work. If I value myself and my work based upon receiving accolades from my boss, right? I want to do this. And then when my boss says, man, you are really amazing at this, and it feels really good to hear that, then I start to value my self value based on those accolades instead of the thing that I'm doing. But then when something shifts and I can't do something that I'm really good at, then I either have an aversion to doing the things that I'm not really confident in doing. And so I don't do certain things. Or when I do something and it doesn't receive those accolades, I start to devalue myself. And then I start to devalue my boss and my relationship to somebody who's in that supervisory position. It's really tricky stuff. And the whole time, it was all based upon this secret belief that I'm only enough when I'm achieving this goal of getting accolades. I'm only good at my job when somebody tells me I am. I'm only good at my job when I'm doing things that I'm good at. I'm not any good at my job when I'm doing things that I'm not good at. You know, uh, that might be getting a little confusing, a little heady, but I think the point there is when we place our value on these things that we receive externally, and that's where we work from, it's not a strong relationship. And when I say strong, I don't mean like a strong bond. I mean like it's not tenable. It takes a lot of work to maintain. But when I maintain my relationships by working from the place of value, working from this place of I feel value in my relationships, I feel value in showing up. There's inherent value just in being here. Um, then whatever else happens, that's icing on the cake, right? Sometimes things that happen are difficult. We struggle with them. Some things they're amazing, and we receive all sorts of benefits and bonuses from. Great, but that's not the reason that I'm here and doing this. I'm working from a place of a core of value, right? So that's what I talk about when I talk about value. So when I value being of service, this means that I'm working from a place not of helping, not of thinking that I am in some superior position to bestow upon another human being the thing that they need to be healthy. No, it's saying, hey, I'm here in this space and I've got this to share. Would you like some? I find these things to be valuable. Would you like some? Try this. Join me. I'll join with you. We'll sit together and we'll do these things together and we'll get better at relating to one another and we'll get better at relating to ourselves. Those are things that I find to be valuable. But then the dangerous part about our identity is when we forget that we are attaching ourselves still even to that. And when that relationship has to change, it can be difficult. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be difficult. Not every loss has to be a trauma. Not every loss has to require a complete and total breakdown of who we think we are in the world. With practice, those pivots can be really exciting. Those shifts can be really enlightening and really opening us. And instead of being heartbroken, we become heart opened. So, right now, for instance, what I've been talking about is my relationship to this part of my identity of what it means to be of service has to change when my body won't be able to do any longer all of the things that my mind wants it to do. And I have to remember that I cannot identify as what I do because that's going to change all the time. So I need to watch how much I identify with a firmness and who I think I am based on the things that I do. And I build relationships based on the things that I do or the things that you do. It's precarious. And when I can start to recognize the ways in which I have attached myself in those ways to that identity, then I can start to open those places that I've closed, right? There's an opening that takes place. How can I still relate to you without doing these things? How can I still relate to myself without being identified as the person doing the thing? And this is true for any relationship I can think of. How I relate to myself as a father, you know. And this comes up a lot with death. This comes up with death. Death is of course such a stark reminder that we are not who we think we are. And just this last weekend, I had the ability to go sit with a person who was in their last few processes, their last few stages of being birthed out of their body. And this was a person who I had a lot of respect for. I have a lot of respect for the way that I identify them in the community. Right, they do a lot of really amazing things, and it's also a person who the two of our personalities didn't always get along. We weren't always, seeing eye to eye, but we had a mutual respect, I believe. And beyond that, once the things that that person can do changes and once the things that I can do changes, there's an opportunity and an opening there to relate on a much deeper level. This is becoming closer to a soul level, a soul to soul. I'm not sitting here with who I think you are. You are not sitting here with who you think I am. We are sitting here with this deeper connection of the beings that we truly are. In those moments, everything else goes away. And I was able to lean over and give this person a kiss on their head and say thank you. And that action was beyond who I think of myself as being. It had nothing to do with that. There was a part of me that who I truly am connected with who they truly are. And then we put that person into the ground the very next day. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful ceremony. We gathered around. His longtime partner led the ceremonies and invited us into a bit of the way that the culture of their family and their relation to earth and to life and to each other. And we took turns speaking with a talking stick and sharing our love and our story, not just of John, but of one another, of community. And then the earth had been opened up. Somebody had opened up the earth and created this forever bed for John's body to go into. And then we lowered John into his grave as a community. And there was singing and there was crying and there were flowers and there was laughter and there was even some moments of To Kilma craziness that took place. But what it comes down to is John left his body to learn how to receive. And we learn how to receive by watching how the earth receives us. I have recently been, I sat with a local friend who is she's really amazing in the healing practices and she does body work. And she was helping me and is helping me work through some of my body issues, but also she has this ability to recognize subtle body issues, energetic body issues. And she said, I want to talk to you because I'm getting a sense that you might be having a difficult time receiving. Maybe you do all this work and you're putting out, but you have a difficult time receiving. And I rejected this. My initial reaction was, no, not me. I don't have a hard time receiving. No, when I give, I receive. Blah, blah, blah. But I sat with that, and I sat what it means to receive. And I know that she was speaking a truth. I know she was speaking a truth. And being a word nerd, I needed to follow back the core of the word receive, right? We know that anytime that there's the word re involved, it means to return, to come back, right? And the word receive has its roots in to take back. And this is interesting because the action of taking is seems so foreign to the idea of receiving, right? But there is an action of taking something. But then there's another definition of the word. There's another way of understanding the root of sieve, right? And there's a word in the Latin that says capio. And this is so like reception comes from capio, recapio. So the reception is to receive something, right? To be received, but it also means I hold. Capio means I hold. And returning to being held and understanding that what I receive is what I hold. What do I hold? How can I be held? Beheld is such a great word. As a single word, beheld. And when we're thinking about receiving, we need to consider the ways in which we are held and the ways in which we consent to being held and the ways in which we allow ourselves to be held. And this is what it means to receive. And I think about, what do I hold and what do I not hold? In what ways am I not allowing myself to be held? So this brings up more questions. What do I hold to be true? What do I hold to be untrue? And when I start to go through all of these processes in myself, this is my practice. This is the way that I find relation to myself and to heal some of these ways in which I've learned things that have maybe gotten in the way of my wholeness. And so I think about that. When I see John's body going in and I behold the earth receiving him, I behold that. I think about, in what ways am I not allowing those parts of my identity that I am so stuck with that it's causing me harm. I don't allow those to go so that I can receive a full breath, so that I can receive myself as I am. And I can receive the world on those terms. And that's where I've been this last few days. I've been in that place, doing that work. So I appreciate you for coming here today to share this space. I believe the chats are open, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to see the chats that are taking place. It's something I have to work out with this streaming program that I use to stream all of this live broadcast. And if you're not aware, we are streaming live in the mornings on Facebook, on my personal page, and on Journey Home Meditations page. And we are streaming on Twitch and we are streaming on YouTube as well. And so you can find us live there. You can also find the archives. And then immediately following this, I download the audio and upload it into Spotify, Audible, and Apple Podcasts and places like that. So if you listen to this on those spaces, please take just a moment to follow or subscribe. The number of listens that I have versus the number of subscribers there's a huge gap there. So just take a moment if you can, just to hit that follow button. It really does help us to be able to have access to some tools that we don't currently have access to. And we don't get any funding for this. That's not the plea here. The cry here is not for funding, but the support that you can show by liking episodes, by sharing them. If this is at all helpful to you, just imagine what it would be like to receive this kind of gift of finding something helpful and somebody who you care about saying, hey, I care about you, and I thought maybe this might interest you. This might be a gift to you. We can share these things around with one another. So if you can engage on that level, that would be helpful. That would be helpful. But no matter what we're doing here today, let's just pause for a moment to take just a few breaths together. And I think this morning I'm going to go ahead and give us a little something just as a nice bed of sound to allow us to focus more deeply in just this space. So if you're seated as I am, you can place your feet flat to the floor or cross your legs in any number of positions. But wherever you are, however your body is positioned, the meditation posture that we are moving into is simply one of balance. Balance is that place of the least amount of stress or strain. And when we can move into a more balanced place in our body, then we open space for our mind to rest and for our spirit to begin to bloom. See, we have subtle voices that need that silence and that stillness to start to come forward. Breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly, filling the belly. I am receiving. And as we release the breath from the body out of the mouth, I am letting go. I am receiving. I am letting go. Notice if you're having a difficult time receiving a calm and steady breath in, or if you're struggling to have a steady and slow out breath, This is all our ability to receive and our ability to release. And the more I can release, the more I have capacity to receive. And as my teacher Olivia Barham says, our capacity to love is equal to our capacity to receive. So breathe out and breathe in. I am receiving love. I am releasing love. For a moment, just forget who you think you are and just feel loved. Be held just for this moment. And when you get to the next moment, you can hold the next moment and let it go and continue receiving and releasing. Thanks for being here this morning. I so appreciate having this space to share these thoughts and these practices, and I appreciate that you are at least somewhat interested in these practices as well. And I'd love to connect with you more. So you can reach out to me. The name is Michael, and my email is journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. You can also check out what Journey Home Support Services is up to by going to www.journeyhome.care, CARE. And if you're in Southern Oregon, you can join us in person for one of our groups or just stop in and have a cup of tea. And if you're not in Southern Oregon and you want to connect, check out our site because a lot of our activities we are streaming on Zoom. So you can join us there. All right. Thanks, everyone. I want to send you just a little bit of love because I've got some to give. I've got some to share. Because the more I share this love, the more it grows. And so I'm hungry. I'm greedy for love. Love greedy. I want this love to grow. This feeling that I have, this connection. I need it to grow. Because it makes all of the other processes so much easier. So receive that love today. Just receive that love. Thanks for being